So I'm walking to the auto parts store right now because went to a Jeep show in New York yesterday. I didn't film, probably should have, but enjoying something and filming something are two different things, and it's very hard to do both. I decided to just enjoy myself for the day. But the ride home turned into an adventure. I thought my Jeep was getting a little squirrely at one point when I came to a stop, and that's because my right front brake caliper seized up on my brand new brakes. But I guess one of the nice things about where I live here in the mountains is we got a pretty nice bike path. So it makes for a nice walk, and I've kind of needed to get my butt back in shape. Not the coolest day to do it, but it's pretty nice out. And I don't know how well you can see it in the wide angle of the GoPro, but right up ahead there is the auto parts store. Luckily, I don't live too far away. Okay, we made it to the garage, which is good. Was able to limp it over here. Got our new set of calipers here. They were pretty greasy for storage, so I already sprayed them down with brake clean. Because for any of you who have never done a set of brake calipers before, the most important step is the very first step. And that's to paint them red. So while I'm waiting for these calipers to dry off, I'm thinking now would be a good time to wake the Camaro up from its slumber. I haven't done anything with this thing all this season. And as you can see, it's just been sitting here collecting dirt because I didn't have a cover on it. And the garage is not the cleanest. Definitely a lot of future plans for this baby. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I don't know when I'm going to start working on it again, but I certainly will soon. But now's a good time to see if I can get it fired up and take it to the car wash, get it cleaned up, and see if I can store it a little better. I forgot how much fun this car is to drive. Well, that looks a little nicer. Dry her off. Head back to the garage. Get back to work on the Jeep. Oh, and for those of you that were wondering, yeah, she's not stock. I do have a build video on this. It's a lot of pictures and a couple of video clips from quite a while ago before I was really YouTubing a lot. So it seems everything in my life is breaking lately. My computer broke, had to buy a new one. Cell phone started acting up. Air compressor, blew a seal, broke, can't hold air now. Jeep, broken. Had to break them loose the hard way, jack it up. Luckily I still have this thing, but it's on its last leg. Nothing's ever easy. Alright, so here's the good news. I think the rotor's going to be okay. I don't know if I'll have to turn it or not. I don't think so. I didn't really feel any pulsations on my way limping this over here. And there's plenty of brake pad, so luckily I don't think I beat it up too much on the way home. And now I'm gonna swap out caliper and the hose just in case the hose is collapsed and it's not the caliper. If I'm in here, it's just a good time to go ahead and get it all done. And while I'm at it, might as well do both sides. First things first, hit this up with some PB Blaster. I'll go get the other side, and I'll do the bleeders on the back brakes. So I got my new brake hoses here, but I just realized that the guy at the parts store neglected to tell me which side is which, and they're different part numbers. So let's see if I can figure it out, huh? Alright, so I got my calipers all painted up here. They're actually still a little tacky, and I just got that one dirty. But whatever. I should be trying to be more perfect, but I beat this Jeep up fairly regularly, so I'm not going to worry about it so much. Let's get down to business. 7/16 will crack her loose. Don't give you a ton of room. One of my buddies bought me these awesome ratcheting. Look at that. It's a ratcheting line wrench. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but hell, it works. How badass is that? So you got a 7/16 nut and bolt that holds your brake line on. I've got drop brackets on mine to allow for the 2-inch lift. Pads look alright. No heat cracks or anything. Like I said, I think the rotor survived alright. Oh, well here. That's an easy way to tell what side's what. I would have had that wrong. Jeep, however, was nice enough to build in a failsafe. The holes for the mounting brackets are off-centered on different sides, so they can only go on the one way. Good job, Jeep. Oh, these ratcheting flare nut wrenches are the freaking coolest thing. This almost makes me happy I have an excuse to use these. Alright, now I'm going to get my nice red caliper messy already, because I didn't give it enough time to dry. But oh well. Snap the pads in. Replacement bolts are different sizes. Oh no, come on. Now my ratchet's being stuck. Having a very rough weekend here. Now we need to reuse this banjo bolt off the old caliper. Which of course is a whole nother size. 14 millimeter. So we're mixing metric and standard in classic American fashion these days. Now it's very important when you take out that banjo bolt that you get the original crush washer off it. If you do not want to double gasket this thing. You'll have brake fluid everywhere and no brakes to stop. So my old one came off, other one's on the other side. So when you put your new crush washers on, one on each side of the brake line. One that meets up with the caliper, one that meets up with the banjo bolt, and then you're sealed and should be good to go. You'll also notice the back of the caliper has a little nub in there right here to position this correctly and hold it straight. I don't know if you can see that more clearly on the old one or not. This was actually round instead of square, and you see it had this little cutout, so it sat right in there. So the aftermarket's a little bit different, but it usually is. So I should have done at least one side first before filming, so I didn't look like such a retard putting everything together. Make sure you have this pointing out, because I had it down, so I fixed that. I got the other side on. Everything's all together there. I got that a good bit more dirty. I'm gonna have to try to touch that up. Now, why did I do both sides, do you ask? Well, you know what? Check this out. Well, of course, now you can't see it. Right inside the caliper there. Get some sunlight. There you go. So that boot's already starting to split. So that's just asking for more problems. So, new calipers, new hoses, and no worries. So now, I'll get this paint touched up in a bit, but first, it's time to bleed everything. And that was another thing too, is my brake fluid was nasty black. I really should have done something about that earlier. Nasty. Now I don't have a bleeder. I don't have anybody here to help me. But gravity bleeding always seems to work. So I'm going to put a can under each bleeder. Crack them loose, front and back. Just get all 4 of them going. And I'm going to keep adding brake fluid until my brake fluid's clear and all the fluid's out. And then eventually, when it's just about done, I'll close them all up, pump up the brakes a few times, open them up again, do it that way a couple of times. Really should invest in a bleeder. So the other thing to remember, grab your little caps off your old calipers, because you're going to want those covers for the bleeders. Now I've got this bleeder open. Gravity bleeding does take a little bit of time. You got to be pretty patient. But eventually, it'll just start dripping right out. This one is going first because it's the closest to the reservoir, and that's dripping down, going down in level, as you can see. So I'll wait till all that dirty fluid gets out of there. I have all 4 bleeders open. I might actually have to close off the forward ones before the back start dripping, and then once they're dripping I can open all of them again. I'm gonna get all this nasty dirty brake fluid out of here. And this is basically a poor man's brake fluid flush. Oh my gosh. Water. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind with brake fluid. You don't want to let this reservoir run dry, because then you have to bleed the brake master. And that's not fun. The other thing is brake fluid is hydroscopic, meaning it absorbs water. So you always want to use a new container of brake fluid, or at least a very young container of brake fluid. And you want to leave this open for as little time as possible and always cap up your fluid, especially on a humid day like today. Now I'm leaving this open for right now because I'm trying to get gravity to flush everything out, so I need it to be able to pull. If I put the cap on here, it's going to create a vacuum, nothing will drip out. I'm just going to keep topping it off, and seeing as I'm flushing it out anyway this way, I'm not worried about having this open. I'm just going to keep going until it's clear. Alright, so working without an air compressor sucks. Working without an air compressor on a really hot day really sucks. And gravity bleeding brakes sucks. Brake fluid's topped off, new calipers and hoses installed both sides. Bled all 4 brakes. I started with all 4 bleeders open. Was only going to the right front or left front caliper. So I topped everything off, closed them up. Started at the back right, farthest away from the reservoir, and worked my way like regular bleeding, just gravity bleeding, and it took freaking forever. Fluid's still kind of dirty in there, so I might just do a flush at some point at work. I don't know. But gonna take it for a spin, make sure I can stop. And I'm gonna take a shower. Talk to you guys later.